experience.
Did you see the fucking article today? There was a thing on the CBC, and it was talking about the word freedom, and that the word freedom is being used many times by far right activists. Freedom. Here, I'll send it to you, Jamie, because this is so fucking. Canada is so fucking wild right now. It's such a like really crazy place. Here it is.
Yeah, far right wingers, they love to use the word freedom in conjunction with a lot of things in order to make it look like they are like the pro freedom people. When in reality, they're not looking for freedom for everybody, just freedom for themselves and the people that they like.
Is why the word freedom is such a useful rallying cry for protesters. The word has become common amongst far right groups. So by putting that far right in there.
Well, if you're really upset about far right wing groups using freedom for everything, maybe you should complain about that instead of complaining about somebody writing an article about what they do.
Far right. But like there's no indication whatsoever that those truckers in Canada were far right. A lot
Yeah, the organization started by right wingers. We can go check out. Here's the article that he has referenced by the CBC. Okay, we can check out the Freedom Convoy. And the organizers of the original mid-January crowdsourced fundraising campaign, they got it on GoFundMe. Tamara Litch is one of the people who helped start the convoy protest, and she is a right-wing activist. Tamara Lynch is a former logistic worker and a Canadian right-wing activist known for her involvement in the Yellow Vest protests, Brexit movement, and the Canada convoy protest. And then we can also, pictured here, is one of the protest group called Canada Unity. Now, if we look at Canada Unity, we can see that the founders are Sandra and James. And if we look at James, you'll see that he is a QAnon supporter, which is a right-wing group, an anti-vax, which is on both the left and the right. But he's also challenged the official account of the New Zealand Christchurch mosque shooting. And so this guy is obviously a right-winger. So all you need to do in order to prove that it's a right-wing protest group is just to look at the people who founded the group, which Joe Rogan doesn't really like to do, it seems like.
A lot of those are working class people that just did not like the idea that they were being forced to do this medical procedure in order to keep their job. And so they label.
It's not a medical procedure to get a vaccine. And if they had an issue with getting a vaccine, well, that's their fault. If they want to work, they would have gotten the vaccine.
Label them as far right.
Yeah.
Trudeau personally labeled them as racists and misogynists. Just so he could disparage them.
Yeah.
I don't know about if he labeled them as racist and misogynist, but being that they're right-wingers, more than likely, they were racist and misogynist.
So, like, whatever they say doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So this is what they're doing here with the term freedom, which is like one of the most basic tenets for human rights. Your liberty as a human being, your ability to express yourself, your ability to talk about things, to protest, to do what you want.
That's what
freedom
I mean.
is so fucking important.
Yeah, but the writer of the article isn't saying that these people don't have freedoms to protest or anything. They're just pointing out the fact that far right-wingers love to make it seem like they're all about freedom. Lame. that they're all about freedom when they're in reality not about freedom. They're just using the word in order to make it seem like it when they want to like try to fight against equality, like you know, when people have been fighting to get trans people accepted in society, and right wingers want to say that they're losing their freedom, so they gotta fight for freedom in order to like stop these people from using their freedoms.
Inherent in the idea of a free country is the right to protest.
Right.
They go hand in hand. That's why that headline is beyond parody.
But it's actually something that's being pushed on the CBC, which is really crazy.
Well, it's sinister.
Like they're setting you up for this idea that you requesting freedom, it's like it puts you in the category of anti-vaxxers or racists or far-right people. It's just...
No, that's not even. It's obvious that he did not read the article whatsoever, and all he wants to do is look at a headline and have some fake outrage about it.
These weird ways that mainstream media has fallen into labeling people in order to pass an agenda and pass this to put this narrative out there. But the fact that they're willing to do it with something that is so important, like freedom.
Like protesting.
Yeah.
Protesting is fundamental to freedom. So to say that using the word freedom is something that protesters use, you're basically, this is like
but not just
China
protesters,
stuff.
far right because you can have far left protesters, and that's not being talked about. Like freedom is very...
Yeah, because left-wing people don't use the word freedom hypocritically, I mean, by claiming to be about freedom and then try to fight to remove the rights of other people. Left-wing people, they actually want to increase other people's freedoms. Right-wingers want to remove the rights of other people and be the only ones with rights.
Very fucking important.
They don't want freedom.
The fact that they're saying that there's an actual article disparaging the concept of freedom, it's really crazy. It's scary as fuck. And I never would have thought before the pandemic that would have happened to Canada. I thought Canada was this like really friendly, cool place where they kind of got it. Like Canada was kind of better than the United States in my opinion. I would go up there, I'm like, people are friendlier, they're nice. It's like, I would say with Canada, I always used to use this term, there's 20% less douchebags.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's like. But
I've never been to Canada, but I wouldn't doubt that kind of description. Canada seems to be, or the Canadian people seem to be slightly more, for a lot of them, a bit more laid back compared to a lot of Americans.
But now under Trudeau, it's like it's become this very weird thing. Have you seen they're trying to push for a digital ID now?
Yeah. I mean, I have a friend, Anna Slats. She...
A digital ID would be useful, but you would have to make sure everybody has like access to the internet or something that would allow them to access their ID if it's digital. Because I doubt everybody in Canada still has access to the internet. It's like in America. Not everybody in America has access to the internet.
She is the founder of Redux, that the website that does a lot. She covers a lot of the gender stuff because she's just like a feminist who's on it. And she's Canadian, and I asked her about this, and that there's no way I'm going to be able to... I would butcher her explanation, but she has a really interesting explanation for why Canada has gone in this direction. And I wish I was as smart as her and articulate, but I was like...
We'll try to paraphrase it. What do you mean?
It was essentially something about the way that Canada was founded. So how... I wish I could remember it. I just don't know enough about Canada.
Well, they don't have a First Amendment up there.
Yeah.
First of all, that's a giant factor.
But something
like,
too about how it's
freedom
like
of speech.
Borderline corporate. It was interesting.
They don't have freedom of speech? That's like that can't be correct. Canada. Under Section 2 of the Charter, Canadians are free to follow the religion of their choice. In addition, they are guaranteed freedom of thought, belief, and expression. Since the media, is important, it are an important means for communicating thoughts and ideas. The Charter protects the right of the press and the media to speak out. So again, Joe Rogan is lying. Canadians do have freedom of speech. He just thinks that their freedom of speech is taken away because they don't deal with misinformation and lies from the right wing. That is very funny.
I don't know enough about Canada, and I was reading it, and I told her she should.
What is her name?
Anna Slatz.
Does she have an article about this?
I told her she should write one about it because I think it's a really important insight that she has, and she should put it out there. Because I was like, how? Because it seemed very liberal to me. So how is this what seemed like a very liberal, tolerant, open society slipped into what seems like totalitarianism, or slipping into it? They just seem like the entire culture is open to being like anti-freedom, which is strange.
It's not anti-freedom to be against misinformation, as well as to describe far right-wingers as to what they are and what they like to do. It is, I think it's funny how these people are actually just mad about this article that was written about right-wingers. They're not actually like mad about like what right-wingers do, because they are right-wingers themselves. Joe Rogan is definitely a Nazi. I mean, he has a lot of Nazis come on to his show, and he doesn't really do anything to show how wrong they are.
To me, I always thought of Canada as like, hey, cool, man.
Well, they're being sold a pile of bullshit, and the pile of bullshit is you must give up your freedom in order for others to be equal. You must give up your freedom in order for society to function in the proper way.
See, this is a fundamentally flawed idea of right-wingers. They believe that in order for other people to have freedoms, they themselves have to give up some freedoms, which, I mean, if you think like the freedom to like beat and kill people you don't like is a freedom, well, it's good that that kind of freedom is taken away. If you think you have the freedom of, getting other people sick, well, it's good that that quote-unquote freedom is taken away. But that's not even reality how it goes. It's not like some kind of freedom. It's not like some kind of pie where you can only get like a certain size amount of freedom, and if somebody else gets some freedom, you get a smaller amount. No. If everybody gets freedom, it's all there. Everybody can have the same kind of freedoms as everybody else. It's not like a finite resource. But that is one of the flaws of right-wingers. They have that kind of idea that it's some type of finite resource. So if like black people get freedoms, then that means white people has less freedoms. If women are allowed to vote, that means less men have freedoms. If and it just doesn't work that way.
You must give up your freedom in order for things to be equitable and inclusive and fair, and it's horseshit. Mm-hmm. And it's a mind fuck. And it's a mind fuck that you hear coming out of the WEF. And
yeah, it blows your mind when you're dumb and don't understand how like freedom is not a finite resource. That's why for people like Joe Rogan, that's why his mind is blown when someone tells him, everybody can have the same freedoms.
And Trudeau echoes it, and they say the right words and use the right phrases, and at the end of the day, what's happening is you're going to lose your ability to protest, you're going to lose your ability to express yourself, you're going to lose your ability to have your say when things start moving in this general direction.
It's funny how he's claiming right-wingers are going to lose their ability to protest, how long did they protest in Canada? They protested for several months, and nobody lost their freedom there. And Canadians are still allowed to protest. They still have the right to free speech, even though Joe Rogan wants to lie and claim they don't.
Towards the centralized government being able to control various aspects of your life. One of the things that we found out during this protest, the trucker protest, was they froze their fucking bank accounts.
I know, that was nuts.
That is fucking nuts. I mean, that is some dictator, third world, banana republic bullshit.
Yeah.
And the fact that that was going on in Canada and they justified it, and they didn't just freeze
Did that actually happen? I don't really feel like looking that up.
their money, the people that were protesting, they froze the bank accounts of people that were donating money.
Yeah, that was the...
Fucking insane.
Yeah, it was really, really insane.
So that's what comes when you start using terms like, freedom and connecting it to the far right.
No, that kind of repercussion is what you get for thinking you can overthrow the government and stuff, which is one thing that this quote-unquote freedom convoy and rally tried to do was have the Canadian government resolved, and Trudeau labeled as a traitor because he wanted to have some vaccine mandates and whatever. But, Joe Rogan being Joe Rogan and being a right-winger and being paid to spew a bunch of lies and stuff is just spewing a bunch of lies. But hey, that's the right wing for you.